The body type you prefer in a romantic partner just might have something to do with the decade when you were born. And that's not the only surprising finding when it comes to the physical attributes that Americans find attractive. Scientists have long believed that humans have an unconscious drive to partner up with members of the opposite sex who appear most likely to help them bring offspring into the world. Accordingly, a team of scientists from Western Illinois University hypothesized that both men and women would find members of the opposite sex who appear to be youthful more attractive than those who appear to be older. As it turned out, they were right and wrong, with gender playing a major part. Their research, published in the Journal of Social Psychology, revealed that heterosexual American women with an average age of 40 weren't swayed by the perceived ages of men when it comes to attractiveness. But by contrast, a significant preference for younger-looking women was observed in heterosexual men with an average age of 40. Being plump was considered pleasing in the early 1800s, but by the 1860s, a pressure to be thin had developed. This pendulum has swung back and forth over the decades, although in recent years, there appears to be a premium on thinness in America. But the research suggests that there's a little bit more nuance to this picture. A 1990 study out of the University of New Mexico, published in the journal Sex Roles, found that men put a great deal of emphasis on thinness in determining which women they find attractive. 30 years later, a 2020 study published in the same journal found that American women tended to overestimate just how thin American men prefer them to be. And a 2020 survey of 2,000 men by the dating site Badoo indicated a strong preference for women with at least a moderate amount of flesh on their bones. If you ask a woman her bra size, she'll probably answer too small or too big. And there's definitely some truth to that old joke. Indeed, when the plastic surgeons at Zavamed surveyed 1,000 Americans and 1,000 Europeans about the ideal breast size, they discovered that most respondents preferred something in the middle. But if given the choice of either small or large breasts, men and women both showed a preference for large, whereas only 9% of women and 11% of men preferred a smaller bust.
Her boobs are bigger.
And male breast size matters as well, or at least they think it does. According to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, over 24,000 men had breast reduction surgery in 2019, and every year, a small handful of men choose to have pectoral implants. According to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, 970 women pursued buttock implants and 4,453 had a butt lift in 2019. Those butt lifts aren't the #1 most popular plastic surgery for women, but they're definitely on the rise. Since the year 2000, this procedure has seen a 215% increase. The preference for curvier female rear ends dates back to prehistoric times. That's according to a 2016 study published in the Journal of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which posited that a woman with a more pronounced bottom would appear to be more capable of carrying multiple pregnancies to term. The study also revealed that it's not necessarily the size of the buttocks so much as whether the lumbar curve, which is the angle from back to buttocks, is sharp enough to offer the appearance of a sizable booty. Apparently, the ideal angle is 45.5 degrees.
There's a back porch I could spend an afternoon on.
Yeah, nice, ain't it?
When the fitness professionals at Treadmill Reviews asked 1,000 Americans to describe their ideal body type, the results revealed that the ideal American man is 3 inches taller and 10 pounds lighter than the average actual American man. Specifically, that ideal fellow would stand 6 feet tall and weigh 187 pounds. However, according to the National Institutes of Health, both this ideal and the actual average American man have body mass indexes that would be categorized as overweight. Additionally, it turns out that preferences vary by generation. Among millennials, the ideal male stands 6 feet tall, weighs 186 pounds, and has a 40-inch chest and 33-inch waist. For Generation X, the ideal man is 6 feet tall, weighs 192 pounds, and has a 41-inch chest and a 33-inch waist. And among baby boomers, Mr. Ideal is 6 feet tall and 190 pounds, but with a 42-inch chest and a 32-inch waist. The Treadmill Review survey about the ideal male body also revealed that Generation X likes its men a bit beefier than both younger and older generations. To put it another way, those born between 1965 and 1980 prefer a so-called dad bod over slimmer, fitter physiques. Similarly, a 2017 online survey of about 2,000 American adults conducted by Kelton on behalf of Planet Fitness found that 69% of women prefer a man who's sporting up to 20 extra pounds. 78% of the women surveyed believe men with dad bods are confident in their own skin, and 83% of the women who are mothers said they would be proud to have a husband with a dad bod. That Treadmill Review survey also asked Americans about the ideal female body. As it turns out, she would stand at 5 feet 5 inches tall, weigh about 130 pounds, and have a waist that measures 26 inches. To offer some perspective, that's about an inch taller and 40 pounds lighter than the average American woman, with a waist that's more than 12 inches smaller. If you think that's a tall order to have to meet, then you should know that the baby boomer standard for the ideal female body is even more exacting than that ascribed by millennials and Gen Xers. Standing at 5 feet 5 inches tall, the boomer's ideal woman weighs 121 pounds and has a 25-inch waist. This is despite the fact that weight and waist size tend to increase with age. It's long been known that a deeply ingrained survival-based drive to propagate the species drives perceptions of attractiveness. But that's not the whole story, as culture and other realities of modern life come into play as well. Accordingly, heterosexual American women don't necessarily gravitate toward the manliest physical characteristics, such as a large jaw, a prominent brow, and thick facial hair. According to a 2019 study published in the National Library of Medicine, in countries like the United States, where conditions are favorable to men living longer lives, facial masculinity is generally considered less important to women. The inverse appears to be true as well, as the study also showed that in states where health conditions are less favorable, women tended to demonstrate a more pronounced preference for more masculine-looking partners. Large eyes, a small nose, and a small chin are all generally considered feminine characteristics. That's because these traits are influenced by higher levels of female hormones. According to a study published in the Journal of Personal and Social Psychology, the words feminine and attractive appear to be interchangeable for the average heterosexual American male. In the study, 75 male undergraduates were shown photos of 50 women. The young men overwhelmingly rated the women possessing more feminine physical traits to be more attractive. And since emotional expressiveness is seen as a feminine trait in the United States, it would stand to reason that the college-age men in the study would also prefer the female faces that appeared to be more emotionally expressive. And, in fact, that is precisely what the data showed. If you're constantly scrolling through Instagram, you might get the impression that everyone is willing to go to great lengths to make their lips appear more luscious nowadays. And according to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, 31,789 lip augmentations were performed in the US in 2019, up from 18,589 19 years earlier. By contrast, lip reduction was performed only 1,170 times in 2019. However, even though more people than ever may be getting lip fillers, that doesn't necessarily mean plump lips are the gold standard of attractiveness.
Now pucker up and kiss it, who, Bill!
A 2019 study published in the journal Archives of Plastic Surgery found that natural lips were preferable to augmented lips among Americans. However, it can't be discounted that the study skewed toward highly educated, middle-aged white females. 93% of the people studied were college-educated, 84% were female, 80% were white, and the average age was 47. Americans place a great deal of value on having straight white teeth, at least according to a 2012 survey by Kelton Research. But the same isn't exactly true of every country. For example, Japanese culture places such a high value on an adorably crooked smile that some people in that country are willing to pay for it. A 2015 study published in the journal Sociology of Health and Illness took a deep dive into why it is that Americans care so much about good teeth. It found that straight white chompers tend to be associated with better health, higher levels of education, and a higher socioeconomic bracket. And teeth that have been cosmetically enhanced through capping, whitening, orthodontics, or otherwise were found to be associated with identity, social structure, and social class. And as the study explained, an improved smile is not only linked to enhanced confidence and self-esteem, but may possibly be associated with employment opportunities.
Don't forget to smile.
The American feminine ideal tends toward bald legs and underarms. However, it's worth noting that this is a relatively new phenomenon. As explained by a 2017 article in The Atlantic, American women couldn't be bothered with hair removal before the late 19th century. The shaving of female armpit hair was practically unheard of before 1915, when the first sleeveless dress was presented as American fashion, and Harper's Bazaar proclaimed that this look could not be worn without clean-shaven pits. The pendulum swung briefly back the other way in the 1960s and 70s, when some women began to reclaim their body hair. But for the most part, Americans continue to view hairless female legs and underarms as signals of attractiveness. According to the book Plucked: A History of Hair Removal, 18th century explorers considered hair-free skin to be a strange obsession of indigenous peoples. But times have clearly changed over the past few centuries. More and more American men are grooming their body hair, and it looks as if the trend may continue for years to come. This may reflect the fact that overt signs of masculinity aren't necessarily highly valued in American culture. But is a clean-shaven chest really something that American women desire? In a nationwide survey of over 300 American women conducted by Prim and Prep, a website devoted to all aspects of male grooming, 60% of the women surveyed expressed a preference for a medium amount of chest hair. But more particular preferences appear to be somewhat age-dependent, as women aged 18 to 24 and 35 to 44 were more likely to prefer a clean-shaven chest compared to women aged 25 to 34.
No, Kelly Clarkson!
Women who cut their hair short are often viewed differently than those who keep their tresses long. As Dr. Alexander Edmonds, a professor of social anthropology at the University of Edinburgh, explained to Refinery 29, longer hair connotes femininity with its associations of passivity and eagerness to please. Indeed, longer hair is thought of as conventional, while shorter hair bucks societal norms. But does that mean that Americans find women with long tresses to necessarily be more attractive? As it turns out, not exactly. According to a 2016 Psychology Today review of several studies addressing this topic, what long hair appears to signify actually has little to do with attractiveness. Instead, it has more to do with status and personality. That is to say, short hair conveys a look of self-determination, whereas longer hair implies a sense of robust health. Additionally, a 2004 study published in the journal Human Nature found that long hair may also signify economic prosperity.